Welcome to a weekend recap from Sky Bet League One and a little sprinkle of FA Cup action because it's highly relevant. This is the Not the Top 20 podcast sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. The league had a reduced slate, but every single fixture was a banger. Top teams playing each other, left, right and centre, what we described on our newsletter as playoffs for the playoffs, and we'll tell you all about them, but not until we've heard about Mansfield. The story of the FA Cup fourth round so far. They won at Bramall Lane in round 3. They won at Turf Moor in round 4, George. Mansfield 2-1 winners at Burnley.
They're kind of the perfect team to have a cup run, where it's like you're mid-table in League One, you're not going to be going up, you're not going to be going down. You've got a team full of players that a lot of like casual football fans or EFL fans would be like, oh yeah, him, okay, he's there, nice.
Who would you say is in that mould?
I reckon a few fans, when like Victor Adebayo came on after five minutes ago, like, oh yeah, Adebayo, he's there. Or like McLaughlin, done the rounds in the EFL for a long time, Oshalaja. But what about the goal scorer? Louis Reed, who is having just an incredible FA Cup, scored 2 ridiculous goals at Bramall Lane in the last round. And then here, after Josh Lauren had put Burnley 1-0 up, after Oates has scored a header, having missed a decent opportunity a couple of minutes before, scored a header to make it 1-1, with 10 minutes or so left on the clock, in front of the away fans. Reed lines up a free kick from, 25 yards? Him and McLaughlin. McLaughlin does a little dummy, but Reed steps up and smashes it top left.
So
like
good.
Just an incredible strike from a player who has a penchant for scoring ridiculous goals in the FA Cup. An amazing story, obviously with Nigel Clough being the manager as well. He's obviously the household name within football that is associated with Mansfield Town at the moment. And it's amazing. I think you normally associate good cup runs from EFL sides in League One and League Two with probably some home wins and some home draws, but to beat both Sheffield United and Burnley away from home is just an incredible effort, really. So credit to them. I'm sure the Mansfield fans have had those two games will rank right up there in terms of games that they've been to in live experiences, especially on the road that they've had in recent times, and that's why the FA Cup is so great. So the big story, and all eyes to see who they get in the next round.
Yeah. I wouldn't fancy it. I wouldn't fancy Mansfield away if they can get one of the big teams there, particularly my favourite Rhys Oates, because what a player he is. Big jumbo Oates. We also saw Burton take West Ham almost all the way. It took extras and Crescencio Somerville to beat Albion, who, it was a good display. 19 shots to 18 in favour of Burton. Really, really impressive. In particular, Suleiman Kribali getting a shout out from Dan Story on Twitter. Turned 17, Kribali, in late August, but started 4 of the last 12 league games. So obviously taking his development pretty seriously and started here. Lots of tackles, did really well in duels against big money Premier League players in the centre of the park for West Ham. And you'll like this quote that he gave to the Burton website a couple of months ago. I base my game around the likes of Kante, Caicedo and Makelele, players that work really hard to win the ball back, but are then able to have that composure on the ball. What an incredible midfield profile he's trying to become. Absolutely love that from him. Also, Arsenal 4, Wigan 0 was done practically once the ref blew his whistle to start the game. But Wigan can look forward now because they have a new manager. It's Gary Caldwell, as foreshadowed by us on the pod last Monday, and basically anyone else with a brain. Caldwell, Exeter to Wigan, back to Wigan, where he won promotion when he was a much younger manager. It's a move that is being sort of billed as makes sense for all parties. Can you take us any further? Do you think this is a good appointment for Wigan? Is it as simple as Caldwell's done a great job at Exeter, overperformed at this level for a long period of time, understands being a bottom half club in League One basically as much as anyone can right now, given where Exeter have been over the last few years, and now is tasked with taking Wigan to safety, and then they can think about beyond?
Yeah, I think it's a good signing for those reasons. I mean, I think he's a good appointment for those reasons. I think the body of work that he's got as a manager, he's someone that has won League One with Wigan Athletic back in 2015, 2016, but as a young manager, he achieved that. Things didn't go great at Chesterfield, things didn't go great at Partick Thistle, but what he's done at Exeter has been one of the most unheralded, impressive jobs in the EFL. It's going to be so hard for an Exeter City manager in League One to get the plaudits that they deserve, because there is always an expectation that you should overachieve. You should. Exeter fans aren't going to thank you for having them 20th, but he leaves them safely mid-table. He leaves them having successfully kept them in League One for the duration of his stay there. There have been good moments recently, in particular, a couple of cup runs. There have been low moments. I think this time last year, when it looked like Exeter may well be in some serious relegation trouble, a lot of Exeter fans wouldn't have minded him being sacked at the time. But
there's been ups and downs, like all relationships.
But
they were stronger together.
That's the nature of being a manager for a team with a smaller budget than most other teams in the league. But I think his relationship with Wigan as a player and a manager is really interesting. Not only has he won the league as a manager before, but he also was part of the team that won the FA Cup just a couple of seasons before that. For some Wigan fans, I know this is a massive positive. They feel like they're getting someone who has a real affinity to the club back. I know for a lot of their fans, it feels like a step backwards, where they're like, why are we getting someone, we need new ideas, we need fresh impetus. What I would say about Caldwell is there are a lot of ex-pro managers who it feels to me kind of go through the motions to an extent when it comes to being a manager. They think it's relatively easy. You pick your best players, you motivate them, and sometimes that can work. In Caldwell, from everything I've heard about him, and to an extent it was his undoing at times earlier on in his career, he is a real kind of out-the-box thinker. He's someone who likes to be innovative, wants to be on the front foot in terms of finding opportunities and ways to gain an advantage. And that has to be a good thing in my mind. Like, I think as experience goes on, you'll learn what works and what doesn't work. But he isn't, from what I know, a lazy, old school manager. He's forward thinking, and it seems to align quite well with what Wigan Athletic want to be. And certainly from after Ryan Lowe's departure, which, despite being relatively popular early in his tenure, has led to him leaving the club as a kind of deeply unpopular person amongst the Wigan fan base. Having someone who comes in with a history of success, both in the dugout and on the pitch with Wigan Athletic, who can speak to the players, like who can actually sit down with the players and tell them about Wembley and tell them about the winning the league in the past, has to count for something in terms of reuniting the club and the fans and the players. So I really like it. I think it's investing in someone who's proven over, that if you invest in them, they can deliver above, what necessarily the level that the club should be at. So yeah, I think it's a good appointment, and I'm pretty sure that we'll see an improvement from them in the coming weeks.
Yeah, 22nd at the moment. They're part of what looks like a bit of a mini league really now, between Northampton in 17th and Rotherham in 23rd. There's 7 teams, and they're separated by only 3 points, and there are 3 relegation spots, and 4 of the teams will be safe, if it is as simple as that. And of course it probably won't be. He was the 11th longest serving manager in the EFL at Exeter, and yeah, great overperformance in the league, just in keeping Exeter in League One, but also their deepest League Cup run in over 30 years. They beat Premier League opposition at St James Park, FA Cup run, their best in 40 years, played Forest and Man City, and they won their first Devon derby in 6 years for Caldwell. So I think a lot of Exeter fans reflecting now, probably quite sort of calmly and understandingly, that he's left them, and saying, yeah, overall, that was a very, very impressive managerial tenure. It's not an easy start for him. Luton at home on Wednesday night, Stockport away, Huddersfield at home, Blackpool away, Argyle at home, Bradford at home. So they play 5 games against top 10 teams in the first few weeks, and that's a tough start for Caldwell. Cardiff 3, Luton 1. George Ellick, tell me all about this.
So there's an interesting start to this story between 2 clubs who were relegated last season from the Championship. Luton, who got rid of a lot of players in the summer, and then again in January, who were part of that team, and have brought in a whole host of players, and a Cardiff side who brought in very few and have kind of reinvested within the playing squad they already have and their academy players, both recruiting new managers, who are young and don't have a load of managerial experience, albeit Brian Barry Murphy with more than Jack Wilshere. But Wilshere gave an interview to, I think it was either to the Luton Club press or to either the Luton Club channel or the local press. And he basically said, I don't think Cardiff are better than us, to paraphrase, I don't think Cardiff are better than us. I do think they're more consistent than us. Mm-hmm. Which is an interesting take when you've got a Cardiff side who have been relentless at the top of League One, who haven't really looked back, and a Luton side who...
They are very good.
They're very good.
Very good, by any measure. So he must think Luton are really good.
But I guess maybe what he meant was at our best.
Yes.
But and also you have to remember that he is probably hoping that his fans and players will read that and think, oh yeah, you know what? Yeah. We can go there and not worry about it.
Yeah.
But all evidence of Saturday's game will tell you that Cardiff are a far superior team to Luton Town at the moment. They were excellent on the day. Turnbull scored after 10 minutes or so, and even by that time it had been coming. Joel Caldwell scored the second goal, with kind of 10-15 minutes left of the first half, with a really good finish from outside the area. Terrible defending from Luton though. It was
Palmer gave it away, didn't he?
Palmer gave it away, and they won it high, and there was just kind of the two Luton centre backs were so far apart that Caldwell kind of drove into the space and just finished off really well. Perry and G scored then just an incredible goal to make it 3-1.
Yeah.
When this was when Luton Town had kind of a rare foray forward, and a penalty given which Jordan Clark dispatched. But it was one-way traffic through the whole game. Luton's only shot inside Cardiff's box was the penalty, and the second half was a half that happened where Cardiff had a 2-goal lead and they controlled things, and Luton didn't have a single shot in the second half. Callum Robinson should have made it 4-1 later on in the day, but a very good save from Josh Keeley kept the score at 3-1.
That's amazing. Not a single shot in the second half, down two.
Down two. Only one shot in Cardiff's box in the whole game. That was a penalty. Like, it's the gulf between these two teams on show on Saturday was huge.
I think how good Cardiff are defensively / out of possession is like, it should be as big a story as the sexy football they play, because it's all linked. You know, it's all linked together, isn't it?
This is where they're so good. Is that there are a lot of possession-based teams who, regardless of the scoreline, will control games in possession, right? With Cardiff, we know that their game model, the way that they want to play, is to dominate possession, and that be their means of doing it. But when they're ahead in games, when game state dictates it, there are often these halves where they don't necessarily see more of the ball. Like the game plan kind of goes out the window, but it doesn't impact how effective they are.
They seem to avoid like all of the pitfalls that trip up almost all of the teams that try and play this way.
Exactly.
In the EFL. Remarkable.
So impressive. And, you know, it would be harsh to judge Luton too harshly.
Well, it wasn't us that made the comparison with Cardiff. That was their gaffer.
But then and he's invited pressure on himself now. You know, I said when Wilshere was appointed, this has to be an appointment for the future. Like, Luton fans and the Luton club hierarchy who appoint them can't choose this profile and be like, right, you have to get into the top 6 now. Yeah. But I'm still quite a few months in looking at Luton and struggling to see that kind of identity that you'd hope a promising young coach would kind of instill in his team.
1 point in their last 7 away games in League 2. Yeah, I liked Colwell's finish for his goal, but I really liked his assist for the first goal for Turnbull, where he's just he's not like his brother Ruben. Joel Colwell's he's not bad on the ball, but his super strength is kind of powerful running. He's a real box crashing number 8. He can carry the ball forward. He can drive. He's just a powerful mover for a young midfielder. And he carried it forward, and Luton ended up sending 3 players out to Caldwell to try and get the ball off him, which created so much space for others, which is why his simple square pass to Turnbull allowed Turnbull to finish well. What a game at Sincil Bank. We don't normally go big on draws, but reduced slate. This one was 2nd v 3rd. It was the biggest game of the weekend, and what a game it was. Lincoln 1, Bolton 1. Now, wow. I mean, Bolton had a couple of opportunities in the first half, right? Blackett-Taylor's looking quite dangerous on the left. There was a cross that hit the bar. There was Rob Apter with a half chance inside the box that was headed off the line. But this was mostly Lincoln dominating. Like, the dynamism in this performance from Lincoln was absolutely standout. Their attack is getting more dynamic every single time We watch them play every week, every month. The Lincoln side continues to evolve. It's not a question of the team that were unfancied being in second place and then gravity catching up with them. They continue to get better, a bit like Cardiff have throughout the season. For me, that's what stands out with those two teams and why they've been the two best teams so far, because they're not just happy to keep doing what's working. They're all getting better throughout the season. They look even more dangerous. Now, one man in particular, Jack Moylan, who is having a sort of 4 to 6 week period, the likes of which I can barely remember at this level before, both in terms of the quality of goals that he has scored, 2 against Burton, of which one was just an absurd strike with the outside of his right foot, goal against Bradford, goal against Wigan, didn't score against Argyle in the 4-1 win, and the goal here where the ball's dropping to him outside the box and his teammate Hackett is quite close to him and he tells Hackett to leave it and to take a step. Basically, he somehow communicates to Hackett, I'm going to receive this ball. He heads it straight to Hackett and before he's even headed it, he's off on his run. Hackett plays it back into him and he finishes first time. The sort of calm, good technique, good connection finish into the corner. It's a sumptuous goal. It wasn't just that. For Moylan, he had 10 shots in the game.
Unbelievable.
Which was more than Bolton and more than 8 of the other League One teams that played on the weekend. This is statistically a once-in-a-year phenomenon in the EFL, a player having 10 shots in a game. David McGoldrick, the last player to do it for Notts against Swindon in January 2025, and then Morgan Whittaker in January 2024 had 11 for Argyle against Watford. So, yeah, once-in-a-year occurrence. He hit the bar, he had plenty saved as well. Like, it's insane watching the extended highlights. Moylan is more involved than any player I've perhaps ever seen in a football match. And with some slightly better finishing, he could have scored 3, 4, whatever. He's pretty amazing at the moment. But they didn't win. Crucially, they didn't win. Like, I can't tell you how much I adored this Lincoln performance, and it's come off the back of 4 or 5 in a row that are they make me so excited. I love this team, but they didn't win, and they normally win. Deep cross, big Dolby, flicked header, 1-1, massive goal for Bolton. They didn't deserve a point from this game, but they got one, and that means the gap between them and Lincoln stays at 6. So no doubt Lincoln with the better side, but there should be a 9-point gap between these two teams, and it stays at 6, and there's still plenty of time to go. So they have to keep going, Lincoln, and not be deterred because they're playing so well. They're playing better than pretty much anyone else at the moment, but just the 1-1 draw in this instance, honours even. Bradford 2, Peterborough 0. This was an absolute hammering. An absolute hammering. Bradford City responding to their haters, the doubters, and responding to a run of quite bad form by smashing Peterborough at Valley Parade with all the stuff that's been missing: energy, intent, speed, quality, desire, strength. They decided to test Posh's backline early with some long passes, and it turns out it bended, it snapped at the slightest bit of pressure. Flimsy backline for Peterborough, and they made the most of it. Poynton putting them ahead early on. Jackson with a great header in the second half. Neufeld went close. Wheatley had a big chance, saved. Just an absolute thumping. There's no two ways about it, really. Nathan Evans, who's Bradford City fan and an absolute legend of Opta, who is a great stat man. 29 shots to Peterborough's 4 was the second biggest shot difference, as in a plus 25 in any match across England's top 4 tiers this season. It's Bradford's largest shot difference in any league match on Opta record, so that goes back to 2019. 7 big chances, their joint most in any league match on Opta record. They amassed 3.42 XG. Only once on Opta record have they amassed more, and that was 3.47 against Bromley at the start of last season. So just a pumping. No two ways about it. A great performance from Bradford, and hopefully they can back that up with more and kind of use this confidence to flow like this in their next few games. Jensen Metcalf, the individual that's been getting the most love from the Bradford fan base, which is great to see, because it's a good signing of a young midfielder, slightly different profile to they tend to try and sign more tried and tested, older, more dependable maybe, players that we know more about. But in Metcalf and in Neufeld as well, you have to say they made 2 excellent signings there. Another big one. Blackpool 0, Plymouth Argyle 4. Now that is an away day. George Ellick.
Yeah, a long trip, well worth it for the Argyle fans from Plymouth to Blackpool to see their team win 4-0. That was 50-1 with Sky Bet, and therefore they are the Sky Bet surprise. And how do they do this? Well, just total dominance, really. Often away wins are smash and grab. The scoreline doesn't reflect the actual game itself. None of it with this one. 22 shots to 5 in Argyle's favour, 11 shots on target to 2, 7 big chances to 0, and 2.99 expected goals to 0.23. Mainly this was from set pieces. They scored 3 goals from set pieces in the last 50 minutes of the first half. Mitchell with a volley at the back post. Peppel diverting home after another Mitchell volley was saved. And then Boateng with a long diverting home a long throw to make it 3-0. And then Watts with a really good finish into the top corner after an hour or so. It was made even worse for Blackpool fans. Boos were ringing around the stadium for the majority of the second half, and Husband was sent off for retaliating to what was a pretty bad challenge on himself too. But for Argyle, this comes off the back of a winless run of 3 games, but under Tom Cleverley, they really look to be firing now. And more wins like this, more performances like this, and Argyle will be wondering if they can challenge the top 6 and make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, and Meachy definitely should have been sent off for that tackle on Husband.
I couldn't agree more. And also, it wasn't like the retaliation seemed like
it wasn't the kicky outest of kick-outs you've ever seen, is it?
No.
Yeah, I was left waiting for the actual proper kick-out. Yeah. I mean, bleak scenes for Blackpool, as you say. Like, I have so much sympathy for Everett, just in terms of the injury situation that he walked into, but also it is his job to make sure that his team do not look this bad. And we're at the stage of his tenure now where it's pretty concerning that that they could feasibly look this bad. And there's so much wrong with how the team's playing at the moment that it's not an obvious quick fix either. So yeah, as you say, a lot of boos, including boos when they came back onto the pitch for the second half, which they've like unlocked another level of boos there, which I like.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that before. Just making your feelings known at literally any opportunity.
15 minutes to calm down. Well, I've not calmed down.
But they were horrific. Like the performance didn't exist. And at home, and especially like coming up for the second half,
nature of the goals as well, all set piecey, but it's not like they were nicking goals from set pieces. The set pieces came about because of the other chances they were creating. Argyle, a really interesting one at the moment. My brother messaged me actually at the start of recording to tell me that he's put a bet on Argyle to win promotion this season.
You go.
So he's bought into it.
He believes.
The data is very good. The performances, particularly first half performances, have been absolutely unbelievable in the last few weeks. And Tolai was just able to continue kind of recuperating from his injury. He wasn't even used off the bench here. So Ben Peppel's done a great job up front in his absence. And then they add Tolai back into this. Pretty exciting times, you have to say. Stevenage 1, Huddersfield 0. It's one of the early kickoffs, which I watched on the sofa. It was an ugly game, let's be honest. A lot of duels, not a lot of quality in possession. But within that context, Stevenage edged the game. They created the biggest chance of the first half through Matt Phillips, who they signed last week, and went in and played up top. Huddersfield created next to nothing, and Stevenage created a bit more than that, including the second half winner from Big Pidge off the bench to win it with a header. So, yeah, for Huddersfield, like a win would have put 10 points between them and Stevenage, and surely ended Stevenage's playoff hopes. But now they're very much alive. 4 points between them, 2 games in hand as well. Reading are up there and interested. Luton are interested too, because Huddersfield's quick start under Manning with 3 wins to start his tenure has slowed down somewhat. Reading 3, Wycombe 2. This was the early kickoff I should have been watching, George, but my red button wasn't working. What some people are calling the Rob Couig derby. Former Wycombe owner now owns Reading, which can't have happened that much before in English football, and essentially looks to me to have been Wycombe against Jack Marriott.
And Joel Pereira. Yeah, basically. Like there's, Wycombe come out of this game with real credit for a team that lost it. They were very good in the game. They created way more chances and way better chances. Game state will play a part in that because Reading went ahead pretty early. But as much as you want to talk about Wycombe being good and being unlucky in defeat, got to talk about Pereira, who made some big saves, but the only person we're talking about here is Jack Marriott.
It was a genuine masterclass of goal scoring.
Absolutely incredible. The movement and the anticipation for the first goal and then the little dinked finish over the keeper was good. It was good.
Yeah.
The capitalisation on Morley tripping over the ball, scampering down the left wing, and then hitting just a ridiculous finish into the top left-hand corner was seriously good.
Weaker foot.
And then I'd say the best of the lot was the third goal. Again, like taking up a really good position, getting away from his marker. through ball coming in and him opening his body and just curling the ball into the top right-hand corner. Like, we know that he's someone whose finishing ability is, the finishing ability is far beyond being a League One striker. It's where he's ended up because mainly fitness issues. But we know that when he's fit and firing, he scores goals at this level. I probably thought that him doing this consistently was behind him in terms of him being able to deal with it physically. But right now, he's looking as good as he ever has done, really. And just an amazing hat-trick. And it's not really worth worrying about the fact that Reading only had 6 shots and he scored 3 of them, and that they conceded loads, because this was one of those days where one player's individual quality won 3 points, and that was it alone. So, his mate Pereira kept them in it and kept the scoreline, kept them ahead for most of the game, but they were pegged back, having gone 2-0 up to 2-2. And then just a ridiculous composure and quality to win the game 3-2.
The stat that I tweeted on Saturday, I'm really quite obsessed with this. So Marriott has scored in 13 of his 18 League One starts this season. So obviously missed a portion of the season through injury, but has scored in 72% of his league starts. For reference, and I think with stats like that, you always need some reference, right? That's cool, 72% of his starts. But what does that mean? The current league top scorers in English football, Erling Haaland, has scored in 15 of his 25 league starts. That is 60% of his league starts he's scored. Marriott at 72%. Vipotnik, 11 of 23 now, so just under 50%. Dan Ballard, 10 out of 24, and Kyle Wootton, they're the top scorers in League One. They're both at 41% of their starts in which they have scored. And Aaron Drinan, the great goal scorer in League Two, Swindon, has scored in 14 of his 26 league starts, which again is just over 50%. So Marriott, every time he steps onto the pitch, has been contributing from a goal scoring point of view, poaching on another level. It's really, really great to see. And it reminds you how many different ways there are of scoring goals if you understand how to shoot with different parts of your foot, with your left foot, your weaker foot, the outside of your right foot, instinctive stabbed finishes. There's so much that you can add to your game as a goal getter that a lot of players never really unlock. They need the right conditions and the right amount of timing and the right amount of space to get their shot off. Not Marriott. Absolutely sensational. And all that means that the league table in that top portion had quite a lot of movement. So like Argyle are now in 12th. They rose 4 places. Wycombe and Posh both dropped 2 with their defeats because Stevenage jumped above them with their win. Luton dropped 1 place and Reading overtook them. So Reading now in 7th spot. They're 3 points off the playoffs. They jumped up 3 positions with that win. Bradford went back above Huddersfield. So in terms of the playoff picture, Stockport 53, they're 9 points off second, and they are 7 points off 7th, Bradford 52, Huddersfield 49, then Reading 46, Luton 45, Stevenage 45, Peterborough 44, Wycombe 43, all very much to play for. Entertaining stuff at Oakwell, Barnsley 3, Wimbledon 3. Initially it was Barnsley going 2 up Cleary. Great skill down the left-hand side. James Tilley got way too tight to Cleary and was made to pay, set up McGoldrick. Then he set up the second goal as well for Bradshaw, his first goal since rejoining Barnsley. Then Omar Bougil came to the party. Talked about him on the pod last week for his unselfish target man qualities. How about 2 headed goals in 2 minutes? The first one was absolutely brilliant. The second one instinctive. He hadn't scored for months and then had 2 in 2 minutes. Maycock set up Marcus Brown for another goal for him as well. Really good play from Maycock. So unselfish to square it where many would have shot. I dare say Marcus Brown himself would have shot. But Maycock set him up for an open goal tap-in. He's done a couple of nice things in the last few weeks, Maycock. I think he's got a goal and 2 assists in his last 3. But big drive forward from O'Keefe, doing what he does best, carrying the ball forward into McGoldrick. His shot was parried and Scott Banks fired home the equaliser. So topsy-turvy. Decent point for Wimbledon, but would have loved to have seen it out, I'm sure, having been 3-2 up. For Barnsley, they won 5 of their first 7 league games this season, and they've only won 5 of their next 21. So they got half of their wins in the first quarter of the season. In that last 21 games, only 22 points in that time. 40 goals conceded in 21 games. It's really making it hard for them to pick up points because they cannot stop conceding. For Wimbledon, 7 points in 3 games is a really welcome return to form for them. Exeter 0, Northampton 0 was a match that happened. Exeter had 17 shots to Cobblers' 3, 5 shots on target to none, but poor execution. 0-0 draw. Gary Caldwell leaves Exeter. And I guess that it's all felt very nice, this. Like, even the vibes I'm getting from Exeter fans is like, we understand this is the time to move on. Part of that is they all seem quite excited about the man that's expected to step up, and that is Dan Green. He's been part of the furniture, part of the staff at Exeter for a while. Wasn't Caldwell's assistant, but it's been a big part of the coaching staff for a long period of time. And I've heard his name for years as like, he'll be the next Exeter manager if and when Gary Caldwell leaves, and we expect that he will be. So yeah, interested to see what Dan Green is like, what the cut of his jib is like. On the one hand, I think it's one of the toughest jobs that you can get in the classic sense, something that you talk about a lot. Exeter have been a League One club for a couple of seasons now. They've probably got the lowest budget in the whole league, and they're going to have to cut it further. So what is considered the norm and what is expected of you is like vast over improvement. And not every club can overperform their budget. So quite a tough job, but also lots of positives. It's a great opportunity for him. And if he's someone that likes working with young players, developing young players, giving them opportunity and getting their careers kick-started, then Exeter's a great place to do that. A good weekend in Sky Bet League 1. Cheers for listening. Sky Bet League 2 and the Championship have their own episodes wherever you found this one. Cheers. Go well.